Al Capone led himself and a few others from the scrums of the street to the pinnacle of organized crime and left a lasting impression for generations to come.
Al Capone's family came from an Italian immigrant family. His father Gabriel and his mother Teresa moved to a tenement house in Brooklyn when Alphonse Capone was born on January 17, 1899. He was the third of 9 kids in the family. The house was in a slum where many other Italian families lived. His father was a barber and his mother was a stay-at-home mom. He was raised by a regular law-abiding family. Nothing about his background would lead you to believe that he would go on to be a notorious gangster. He dropped out of school when he was 12. Shortly after, his mentor Johnny Torrio invited him to join a street gang. This would begin the young boy's life of crime.
Quickly, Capone became Torrio's right-hand man, proving himself above his peers. In 1909, Torrio decided to move his dealings to Chicago. Capone, who was now a young man, moved to Chicago with him. Johnny and Al worked together to become one of the most powerful gangs in Chicago. Torrio began working for Jim Colosimo, whom he had assassinated. Torrio would then take his place as the leading crime boss in Chicago. Shortly afterwards, Torrio would retire, and Capone would take over. Capone took the gang to new heights. He controlled everything from gambling to racketeering, and all the illegal buildings, such as speakeasies in Chicago.
Soon after his takeover, Capone was faced with a crisis. There was a cop crackdown in Chicago, and Capone had to move his entire mob out into the surrounding districts so he wouldn't be compromised. Fortunately, for the fate of the gang, he was a strong leader. At a time when his career could have ended before it began, he led them to safety. Slowly and surely, Al Capone showed his regime the way back into Chicago. Foot by foot, he slowly regained territory.
For years he would keep controlling rivals down with an iron fist and a charismatic personality, until he was convicted of tax evasion on October 18, 1931. The man responsible for Al Capone's imprisonment was a revenue agent named Frank J. Wilson, but not even Alcatraz or State Penitentiary could keep Capone from running the show.
Capone would remain in prison until he died from syphilis on January 25, 1947. He kept his entire gang running from behind bars using influence and bribes. To be able to lead people from a distance and under direct supervision of the government is an amazing task.
Capone was able to lead any willing man to follow him, no matter what the circumstances are. A man with this ability is a phenomenal leader, no matter what he decided to accomplish with these skills.
What am I? What draws my admiration? What is that which gives me joy?
James.
Baseball. A man stands alone at a plate. This is the time for what? For individual achievement. There he stands alone. But in the field, what? Part of a team. But I get nowhere unless the team wins.
Team.
Al Capone left the greatest legacy an American criminal ever has. When you hear the word gangster or mobster, you think of Scarface himself. The icon of the Roaring Twenties and the height of bootlegging during Prohibition, Al Capone became one of the most known celebrities of his time period, even becoming renowned worldwide.
Al Capone kept a good relationship with the media, allowing public support for himself, so rumors circulate this figure. One such rumor is the story of how he got his nickname Scarface. He was in a bar as a kid and got into a scuffle. He was then cut across the cheek with a knife by a rival thug.
Al Capone preferred to showcase himself as a businessman. To keep this professional atmosphere around him, he lived in an expensive but public hotel, where the media would come frequently. It was no secret where he lived or what he did. Also, to retain a business-like status, he claimed to travel unarmed and never carried a gun, even though he had bodyguards everywhere.
Headlines almost every week. The American public ate every ounce they could of the gangster. The people loved him. He was truly a celebrity. Unfortunately, this was all just an illusion. He really was a public enemy. He's most famous for the harsh ways he would treat his enemies. Death at dinner parties, assassinations, bombs, and of course the famous St. Valentine's Day massacre. He assassinated rivals on February 14, 1929. Capone lured the rival gang in with business of bootlegging and had his men dressed as police officers. The phony police officers then commanded them to stand against the wall. They killed the rival's men, but the rival ran away.
Al Capone left a legacy that lasted almost a century. Today we still make movies and tell rumors about the criminal. Even if he wasn't a good person, he still left a mark on our history. He let his gang into the heart of America and will stay a part of it forever.